Did you really think you could run away from your past, Adrian? I have a surprise for your life, but don't worry, I won't spoil the surprise. That comes later. Her voice echoed, familiar yet chilling. It was her, Elena, his ex-fiancée. A man who traded love for wealth finds himself trapped in a masterfully orchestrated revenge, where the true cost of betrayal is a lifetime of regret. But we start the video. Let us know where you're watching this video. And if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. Story Store, and please share your thoughts about this story in comment section. The grand chandelier flickered as the storm outside roared like a beast, its thunderous growls rattling the windows of the lavish mansion. Lightning slashed across the sky, casting eerie shadows along the silk-draped walls. Adrian clutched the glass of whiskey tighter, his palms sweating despite the chill in the air. The wedding guests had long departed, leaving behind the remnants of a perfect evening. Or what should have been one, but something felt wrong. A cold unease settled in his gut, like an invisible hand tightening around his throat. He turned toward the enormous mirror near the bed, catching his reflection. His dark, tousled hair slightly damp from the night's rain, his suit slightly wrinkled from the festivities. His bride, Veronica, lay asleep on the bed, her white gown cascading over the sheets like a pool of silk. She looked serene, untouched by the creeping dread that coiled around him. Then a sound, a faint creak at the doorway. Adrian stiffened, his breath catching in his throat. Slowly, he turned and froze. A figure stood in the dimly lit entryway, barely more than a silhouette against the flickering candlelight. A woman, draped in shadows, her presence exuding an unnatural stillness. The storm outside howled, as if echoing the chill that slithered down Adrian's spine. Then she spoke. "Did you really think you could run away from your past, Adrian?" The voice, hauntingly familiar, chilling in its steadiness, sent a jolt of recognition through him. His grip on the whiskey glass faltered. No, it couldn't be. He had left her behind. He had buried that part of his life. "Elena," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the storm. She stepped forward, her face emerging from the darkness, a ghost from the life he had abandoned. Her lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. But there was something triumphant in her gaze, something that made his blood run cold. She had returned, and she wasn't here to forgive. 3 months earlier, Adrian had been hopelessly in love with Elena, a struggling artist with an infectious spirit and a heart full of dreams. Their love had been passionate, built on whispered promises and stolen moments. But love, Adrian had learned, did not pay for silk sheets and fine whiskey. When Veronica stepped into his life, graceful, poised, and impossibly wealthy, the choice had seemed almost too easy. The daughter of a powerful business magnate, she promised him a life of extravagance, a future secured by endless wealth. And so, Adrian chose comfort over passion, trading the warmth of Elena's embrace for the glittering halls of Veronica's world. Elena had begged him to reconsider. Her tears had stained his shirt the night he ended things, her fingers clutching his as if she could hold on to what was already slipping away. "You'll regret this," she had whispered, her voice hollow, shattered. "Mark my words, Adrian." At the time, he had scoffed, dismissing her words as the bitter ramblings of a woman left behind. He convinced himself that she would move on, that he would forget her. But standing in the dim glow of his wedding suite, watching her step out of the shadows, he realized the truth. Elena hadn't moved on, and she had never forgotten. Veronica stirred slightly in her sleep, blissfully unaware of the storm raging both outside and within the room. Adrian's heart pounded as he turned back to Elena. anger overtaking his initial shock. "How did you get in here?" "What do you want?" he hissed, his fingers tightening around the glass in his hand. Elena smirked, stepping closer. "I came to see the look on your face when you realized the biggest mistake of your life. But don't worry, I won't spoil the surprise. That comes later." A shiver ran down Adrian's spine. There was something unsettling in her words, a hidden promise laced with vengeance. He wanted to throw her out, to call security, but something told him it wouldn't be that easy. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice lower now, almost pleading. "Whatever you think you're doing—" "Oh, Adrian," she interrupted, tilting her head, "you still think you're in control. That's adorable." With that, she turned on her heel and walked out of the room, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Adrian's breath came in short gasps as he rushed after her, but by the time he reached the hallway, she was gone. The mansion was silent, save for the distant rumble of thunder. His hands trembled. She had come here for a reason, and whatever that reason was, it wasn't over. The next morning, Adrian awoke to an empty bed. He blinked in confusion, his hand instinctively reaching for Veronica, but the sheets were cold. His heart pounded as he sat up, scanning the room. The faint scent of her perfume lingered in the air, but she was gone. A single note lay on her pillow. "You should have chosen love over money. Now you will understand what true loss feels like." Adrian's breath hitched. His fingers tightened around the paper as dread seeped into his bones. He stumbled out of bed, calling Veronica's name as he rushed through the mansion. No answer. He tore through the hallways, his panic rising with each empty room he checked. The servants had seen nothing. The security footage had mysteriously stopped working during the night. No one had any idea where Veronica had gone. Then something caught his eye. A single red rose placed delicately on the grand piano in the foyer. His stomach twisted. Elena. She used to leave him roses, a silent token of their love. But now, it felt like a symbol of something far more sinister. Had Elena taken Veronica, or had she convinced her to leave him? The questions swirled in his mind, but one thing was clear. His past had finally come to collect its debt. Desperation clawed at Adrian as he scoured the mansion for any clue. His once pristine wedding suite now looked like a crime scene. Drawers pulled open, sheets torn from the bed in his frantic search. He stormed into his office, dialing Veronica's number again. Straight to voicemail, he slammed the phone down. This wasn't a coincidence. Elena had planned this. Then he noticed something. A sealed envelope resting on his desk, his name scrawled in delicate handwriting. With trembling fingers he tore it open. "Follow the past to find your future." His mind raced. What was Elena trying to tell him? Was she leading him somewhere? Toying with him? Then he saw it. The faded address printed at the bottom of the note. It was the address of their old dream home. A home they had once planned to build together. A place filled with abandoned promises and memories he had long buried. Now, it seemed, he would have to unearth them again. Adrian drove through the rain-slicked streets, his mind racing. He had checked every possible place Veronica could have gone, but there was no trace of her. Then he remembered the note. The only clue left behind. Follow the past to find your future. It had led him here, to Elena's old apartment, a place filled with the ghosts of their past. But when he arrived, the apartment was abandoned. The door was boarded up, dust collecting on the windows. She had been gone for a long time. A sinking feeling settled in his gut as he approached the door. Nailed to the wood was a letter. He hesitated before tearing it free, his hands unsteady as he unfolded the paper. Inside, in Elena's elegant handwriting, were just a few words. One last chance. Meet me where it all began. Adrian's breath caught. There was only one place that could mean. The letter's cryptic message had led him to the outskirts of town, where an old mansion stood in eerie silence. It was a place of broken dreams, a house he and Elena had once planned to live in together, back when love had been enough. His heart pounded as he pushed open the rusted gate, stepping into the overgrown garden. The mansion loomed before him, dark and waiting. Inside, candlelight flickered in the grand hall, casting long shadows across the walls. On a small table near the entrance, something glinted in the dim light. Veronica's wedding ring. A voice came from the darkness. "Welcome home, Adrian." Elena stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "You always wanted wealth, so I gave you a taste. But did you ever wonder where Veronica's fortune came from?" Adrian's throat tightened. "What are you saying?" She smiled, slow and knowing. She was never rich. I made her rich just so I could take it all away. Elena stood before Adrian in the dimly lit mansion, her eyes glinting with something unreadable. He felt his pulse hammering as he took a cautious step forward. "Where is Veronica? What have you done?" She let out a slow chuckle, shaking her head. "You still don't get it, do you? It was never about her. It was always about you. About us." Adrian's mind reeled. "You're lying. Veronica's wealth, her status, was a fabrication," Elena interrupted smoothly. "She was never wealthy, Adrian. I made her wealthy. I orchestrated everything, down to the moment you slipped that wedding ring onto her finger." Adrian's breath hitched. "Why?" Elena stepped closer, her voice a whisper laced with triumph. "Because you chose greed over love. And I wanted to show you what that truly costs." His stomach twisted. Veronica was just another pawn. I gave her everything, and I took it away, just like you took everything from me. Now you know what it feels like to lose the world in a single moment." Adrian staggered back, his body trembling with realization. "You planned all of this?" Elena smiled. "Every step, and now, Adrian, your real punishment begins." Elena's words hung in the air like a curse, pressing against Adrian's chest like an unbearable weight. His knees weakened as he grasped the enormity of what she had done. She hadn't just taken his wife, she had unraveled his entire existence. "Where is she?" he demanded, his voice raw. Elena tilted her head, her smile faintly sad. "Gone, just like my love for you." He sank to the floor, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Please, Elena, I was wrong." She handed him an envelope. "Inside is a key, one last chance. If you truly regret it, you'll know what to do." And with that, she disappeared into the shadows, leaving him alone with his regret. Adrian collapsed onto the cold, dusty floor, his world unraveling with every word Elena had spoken. The weight of his own betrayal crushed him. He had traded love for wealth, and now wealth had turned to dust in his hands. His heart pounded as he looked up at Elena, his once beloved, now his executioner in this cruel game of revenge. "Elena, please." His voice was hoarse, desperate. "I was wrong. I know that now." She watched him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. The woman he had left behind, the one who had once looked at him with love and devotion, was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who had risen from the ashes of heartbreak and reshaped her own destiny. "Maybe you were," she finally said, her voice quiet, almost wistful. "But some betrayals cut too deep, Adrian. Some wounds don't heal." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn envelope. "Inside is a key," she continued. her gaze never leaving his. "One last chance. If you truly regret everything, you'll know what to do." Adrian's hands trembled as he took it. "What does it open?" Helena smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "That's for you to figure out." Without another word, she turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing through the empty mansion. He wanted to call out to her, to beg for another chance, but the words stuck in his throat. For the first time in his life, Adrian felt powerless. And for the first time, he realized that losing Elena wasn't just punishment, it was a lesson he would carry forever. The key in his hand felt heavier than gold. It was his final choice, but was he ready to make it? Adrian stood outside a small, familiar apartment, gripping the key Elena had given him. His breath formed white clouds in the chilly night air. It had been years since he had last set foot here, but every memory came rushing back, the laughter, the whispered dreams, the love that once bloomed within these walls. With a shaking hand, he inserted the key into the lock. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit space covered in dust and forgotten time. It was exactly as he remembered, yet painfully empty. On the small wooden table in the center of the room lay a single folded note. His heart pounded as he picked it up and unfolded it. "You can start over, but never with me." The words blurred as tears filled his eyes. He sank onto the chair, the weight of his past crushing him. This wasn't a second chance with Elena. It never had been. It was a lesson, a mirror held up to his soul. She had given him an opportunity, not to win her back, but to understand what he had lost and why. For years, Adrian had chased wealth, believing it would bring him happiness. But standing in the remnants of a life he had thrown away, he realized true wealth had been here all along, in love, in loyalty, in the simple joys he had abandoned. He wasn't sure where to go from here, but for the first time in a long while, he knew one thing. He had to change. Elena had given him the key, not just to this apartment, but to his own redemption. And now, it was up to him to use it. Years passed, but Adrian never escaped his past. He no longer chased wealth or power, living instead with the weight of his greatest mistake. Every night he dreamed of Elena, her laughter, her warmth, the love he had thrown away. But just before he could reach her, she would disappear, leaving behind only a whisper. Some choices can never be undone. He woke each morning with the same emptiness. No punishment could be greater than the regret that consumed him. Elena hadn't needed to take his wealth. She had only needed to show him what it had cost. He once believed money was everything. Now he knew better. The true curse of greed wasn't losing riches. It was realizing, too late, that love had been the only thing worth holding on to, and that was a loss he would carry forever.